Welcome back to the Frank Roach Show. Great to have you with me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Tell your friends and family to do the same. Like the video and click the bell for notifications. Checking a bunch of hot topics today. It's Tuesday, May 28th, so it's Trump Day again. All the other cases that Democrats have brought against former President Trump are moving very slowly through the court systems and are in jeopardy, whether they'll ever be brought to court. Certainly not before he is elected or not elected president in November. But the hush money trial in New York City is ongoing. And today was closing arguments for both sides. Instructions for the jury were presumably given last week, maybe reiterated today. The judge has indicated that he's asked the jury to expect a long day and at least an hour for jury instructions. I think last week the reference was that the judge and the legal teams got together to sort out jury instructions. So it's going to go to the jury today or tomorrow. And as I've said many times in the recent past, it's a very high probability that Donald Trump will be convicted by this jury. If he's not convicted, the other probable option is a hung jury, a hung trial. No way he gets found not guilty. This whole case is an affront to our judicial system as it's operated even in New York City for our history. I am not a lawyer, although I play a lawyer on podcasts. How about Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia? I'll do my lawyerings. But I'm able to follow lawyers. I have friends who are lawyers, Democrats, Republicans, independents. And who I've been following for this case is Alan Dershowitz, a longtime Democrat, very prominent lawyer, lots and lots of experience with the American legal system, and Jonathan Turley, another prominent legal mind on the right side of the political spectrum. And they both agree that this is a sham of a trial, that this will absolutely be overturned on appeal, that the case should never have been brought, that the case should never get to the jury. And yet, still, here we are. The judge is going to allow this to reach the jury. If the judge wasn't going to allow it to reach the jury, that would have already been decided. In any event, the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris campaign team, decided to take advantage of all the media at the courthouse in downtown Manhattan to hold a press conference. I think it indicates a little bit how politicized this issue is, that the Biden-Harris campaign has decided to make a political issue out of this and actually show up at the courthouse. Must be feeling a little jealous about former President Trump getting all this free media. But who do they send as a surrogate? They sent Robert De Niro, Bobby De Niro, whom I'm a huge fan of as an actor. The movies over the past 10 or 15 years have not been good. He's done a lot of movies to earn money that have been not good in the box office, not great character roles. But overall, I'm a big fan of Robert De Niro. Just some amazing movies that he's done. But he is selling his reputation the more he goes off on Donald Trump, who I believe when Donald Trump was a Democrat and just a billionaire in Manhattan, they interacted with each other. A lot of these celebrities that hate Trump now loved Trump when he was on The Apprentice, when he was just a ritzy guy on Fifth Avenue. In any event, the Biden administration gave De Niro his instructions, and the instructions remain the key theme of the Biden administration's effort to combat Donald Trump, and that is democracy, the so-called insurrection of January 6, 2021. And while it's clear that that issue is failing, the only ones that are energized by that issue are hardcore Democrats, progressives. It's not impacting independents or moderates, and it's getting stale. And so they brought out De Niro to hammer on that point, that main plank of their platform, and that is protecting democracy. Let's have a listen to what Bobby had to say today.
Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, He will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave.
All right, so I think Bobby needed a table read for his speech. He had a speech, prepared speech in his hand that was a few pages at least, and he did not stick to his speech. He did not deliver it well, and I'm going to imagine the Biden-Harris campaign team is not happy with this particular press conference they held today in New York City. Of course, he got heckled by the pro-Trump supporters that were at the courthouse, a lot of FUs. He called Trump supporters gangsters and clowns. Again, that long line now of prominent Democrats mocking Republicans, conservatives, the deplorables, clinging to their guns and religion. You know, that Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Robert De Niro. Probably not helpful to call your opponents clowns and gangsters. But the point he made in his speech, his comments, they're silly. Not going to happen. President Trump, if he's elected to office again, will not get to decide if he stays in office after 4 years. Remember now, he cannot run for another term. There will be no elimination of elections. There will be no dictator. To the extent our system has been weakened, and it has been, we are in secular decline and have been since the 1980s. We still have a very robust constitutional system. And Democrats in the House and Democrats in the Senate and Democrat judges, Democrat governors, the military, the deep state, the administrative state, they are not going to allow President Trump to somehow become dictator, to not have elections. That's just lies, just scaremongering. Don't worry about that. It will not happen. Remember, they said the same thing when he was coming to the end of his term in 2020. They said again he would not leave. And so this rhetoric, I guess it's helpful for the base of the Democrat Party, but it's not gaining President Biden any votes. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. And Bobby De Niro did not do himself any favors. His legacy is really being impacted negatively by these outbursts he's had over the past 6 or 7 years with respect to Donald Trump. Elections are over. That's done. The freedoms we hold dear are done. It's just not going to be true. In fact, the opposite is the case. It's very obvious Democrats are really good at projecting. If they're saying something about Republicans, it's very likely they're doing the same thing. Anyway, not a great scene for Bobby De Niro. Keeping the electoral theme, the Libertarian Party had their national convention over the weekend. I've said for many, many years now, since 2007, 8, 9, that Libertarian Party members more closely align with Democrats than Republicans for a variety of reasons. I'm a fan of much of their agenda. Leave us alone, limited government, non-intervention, military policy. But most of the time they line up more with Democrats than Republicans. And over the weekend, they nominated a Democrat, a liberal, a progressive, Chase Oliver. The driving force of the Libertarian Party is the Mises Caucus, M-I-S-E-S. And of course, this name is Ludwig von Mises, 1881 to 1973, an economist. And he was a strong advocate for the only viable economic policy for the human race to follow is that of unrestricted, laissez-faire, free markets, unhampering exercise of the right to private property, strict government control in terms of what the government does. And that's been the driving force for the Libertarian Party for the past 20 years, for sure. Well, they got beat. They got beat. Their candidate did not make it. RFK thought he might be the candidate. He didn't get it. Donald Trump spoke there. He got booed. And so now we have this Chase Oliver, will be the youngest party nominee ever at the age of 38. He's on board the LGBT agenda. He's pro-choice. He believes in climate change and the necessary actions we need to take to fight climate change. And he wants to simplify the immigration system, make it easier for people to get into the country, Should be a pathway to citizenship. So a lot of Democrat talking points there, but very interesting that Libertarians have nominated a left-leaning guy for their candidate for 2024. Of course, he has no chance. To the extent he takes votes, he's going to take votes from RFK and Joe Biden, given this candidate. He won't hurt Trump. Again, we still have other candidates in the race that can potentially impact the race, RFK being one of them. RFK can impact both Biden and Trump. Cornel West, that's a steal from Biden. So interesting developments there. Not helpful, but the Libertarian Party has some work to do to sort itself out in terms of what its identity is. I've talked about this particular subject a few times already, the Gaza Pier that President Biden and the U.S. military has constructed on the coast of the Gaza Strip, on the western end of the Mediterranean. Two different piers, one 3 miles out, one right on the coast. Well, the temporary built pier has been damaged by heavy seas. It's going to take more than a week to repair, and a big old embarrassment for the U.S., President Biden, and the U.S. military. The causeway portion, the section where the trucks are driving off the main loading dock onto the coastline, broke off and has to be repaired. And what's worse is the U.S. Army tried to use several naval vehicles to pull the pier off the coastline, but they couldn't, and those boats became stuck. I've told you from the day this was announced that this was going to be a failure. And boy, oh boy, it's working out that way. Meanwhile, to the extent relief, humanitarian relief has already come off those piers, apparently 137 truckloads, only about 40 have made it to the Palestinians. They've been hijacked along the way, mostly by Hamas, which is the same situation going on with aid coming over the road network in southern Gaza Strip in Egypt, and of course from Israel. So real problems there for the Biden administration, the U.S. military, in following through on this effort to provide humanitarian assistance to the Palestinians. I was noticing a headline today. It's a headline related to a pretty lengthy article. And I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing yet, but I've read some important information. It comes from the City Journal, which is a publication of the Manhattan Institute in New York City. They make a really interesting point. You all know the hype over AI right now. We know the hype over cloud technology. We know the hype over digital currencies, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. And guess what all these things are going to need right now? They need lots and lots and lots of electricity. Lots and lots of energy. Way more than we can even think of providing. Forgetting about powering homes and businesses and factories and cars and trucks. It's off the scales how much energy we need just for AI, just for cloud technology, just for cryptocurrency mining, just for managing digital currencies. Not only do we need lots of energy for that, we need completely reliable energy for that. And now let's add on top of that, we're reshoring manufacturing that we sent over to China for the past 50 years. We're trying to reshore that, right? Through renewed industrial policy. And that's going to be new demand for electricity and energy consumption. And so the scions of software are discovering that both virtual reality and artificial intelligence are anchored in the hard reality that everything uses energy. And this is especially true for the blazing fast, power-hungry chips made by NVIDIA that make the AI revolution possible. This energy transition will not happen. This elimination of internal combustion engine cars will not happen. Now, speaking of NVIDIA, big gainer again today, up $74 today to $1,139, another record high. Holy cow. Unfortunately, the Dow Jones Industrial Average finished down 216 points at 38,852. The S&P, what a surprise, up 1 point. It's green, though, 5,306, record highs, near record highs. The NASDAQ, first time over 17,000, closed the day up 99 points at 17,019. Major bubble in equities. Don't put new money to work up here. Sell these rallies. They're banking on the Fed cutting rates this year more than once. The Fed has said very clearly, if they cut it all, it's going to be one time. I've told you many times, the Fed needs to be on hold for an extended period of time. We still have a serious inflation problem confronting Americans at every level. While the inflation rate has fallen from 9.2% in 2022, it's still at 3.4% here in 2024. That does not mean prices are falling. It means prices are still rising, just rising at a slower rate. The overall price level since January 2021, President Biden took office, is up 28%, killing American households, killing the middle class, killing the poor, killing fast food. Anyway, checking out some economic data today. Another record high in the home price index for the S&P Composite Index, 423.4, up 6.7% on the year. The price index for homes up 6.7% for the year. Insanity. I've told you this before, housing has been turned into a commodity. We have gone the wrong direction on housing. The flipping world, the Airbnb, the Verbo world, the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum saying that individuals will no longer own homes but only rent homes, so let the deep-pocketed financial services company from around the world buy up the homes. And so it's these factors that are driving home prices, that are reducing supply. We have to get rid of the Airbnb and Verbo stuff. We got to go back to hotels. We got to get away from foreign ownership of U.S. real estate, land. We have to get away from this idea that individuals will own nothing and that deep-pocketed financial service companies will own everything instead. We are crushing the housing market. Of course, it's great if you're an owner, if you're a seller, but the generational theft here is off the charts. The unfairness is way, way wrong. All right, quick check on hot headlines today, hot topics, hot takes. That's all I got for you. Always try to buy American.